Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really exciting pre-review, I guess. This is technically a prototype. I don't know if there's going to be changes between this variation of this knife and the final production variation. To be honest, it feels like a completed product. But just to be safe, I'm going to call this a pre-review because this is still technically in Kickstarter, even though the project has been fully funded and they're going to see this through. So anyways, this is the return of the CJRB Feldspar. Now, with a button-operated, I'm going to call this a top liner lock, which is just exceptional. If you're newer, you're going to look at this and go, great, it looks like another basement. But years ago, I remember when Nick Shabazz reviewed the standard Feldspar. This was a huge deal for the budget knife world. This is not a budget knife, but this was a huge deal for the budget knife world because this was back when like budget knives were kind of, most of them were blah, and there were a few like really good ones. Now we have an ocean of really good budget knives, right? So this knife back then really stood out. I remember watching Nick Shabazz review this and thinking, I got to get my hands on that. It looks really good. And then ultimately coming to a very similar conclusion. I really love the original CJRB Feldspar, but that basically has become the norm. What the Feldspar was then has become the norm. That's kind of, it's almost like the standard. It has a lot of stuff that's considered standard now. So seeing it return with some updates that sort of correlate with what we want now in 2025 is awesome. I'll tell you right now, I love this knife. I think it's really cool. The Kickstarter's open, but like you get in, like it's basically like a pre-order, right? So you get your early bird pricing, which is what I'm going off of right now. I'm sure that it'll change slightly when they finally hit retailers, which by the way, I think they list that as March of 2026. So I'll have this link down in the description if you want to get in on it. There's a bunch of different variations, including a version with a button operated top frame lock, which will be in its own review. I have that one here too. Thanks so much to CJRB for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Make sure your notifications are turned on for the Metal Complex YouTube channel. Man, this is wild coming back to this knife. I feel like I just rewound like 6 years on this channel. Overall length coming in at 8 inches, full-size knife. Will they do a smaller one? Almost certainly, guys. Almost certainly. I'm pretty sure they had a mini Feldspar. In fact, I think I have a review on it. So probably the big one first, the little one afterwards. My guess. 3.5-inch blade, 3 inches of cutting edge, now with a beautiful, we'll talk about it in a sec, beautiful forward choil. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find down in this section, or in this section, can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others. So up against the 8010 and my own Excalibur, you can see here it's a little smaller than Excalibur, 1/2 inch, but still a full-size knife, definitely, by my own definition at least. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Note the similarities in ergonomic lines. Definitely like very, very similar here. And this is preferential to me. One of the only things that I don't like about the PM2 is this little sort of, this area back here where just sort of, it's like, that's it. That's where we want you to grip. And the rest of this is just butt, right? This is kind of open. So if your hands are a little bigger, if you got bigger hands and you're like, my pinky starts to like sort of, you know, snow ski off the end of the PM2. The nice thing about the Feldspar is you've got that room back there and you still have an even bigger, look how big the forward choil is there, while still maintaining plenty of cutting edge. Really, really enjoyable ergonomic profile for me. I believe the original Feldspar did not have that forward choil, and it was fine, but I think a lot of people talked about wanting to have it. It's kind of, whether or not it's better is completely subjective. You know, a bunch of you down in the comments will say, I hate forward choils. Many of you will say, I gotta have it. Some people just don't really care, right? It's fine. Up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca, very similar to the Ritter Hogue. This is, in a lot of ways, CJRB's Griptilian. That's, I think, how I originally described it, if I remember correctly. How's the action on this knife? Well, if this is, if this is a like a prototype, and they're going to improve the action, which is possible. I mean, this is amazing the way it is. The detent feels great. Let me tell you, here's a great example of a thumb stud that I love. That is so beautiful. Where is it? Yeah, there we go. Ontario Rat Model 1. Look at the similarities here. We have gradual steps and a domed top. Why does that matter? Why are you getting all whispery and weird with us? Because, in my opinion, this is the most comfortable thumb stud. Sometimes companies are like, what should we use as the element that allows the user to deploy the blade with their finger? I know, shrapnel. How about shrapnel just like attached to the blade? That's comfortable. I don't know why so many of these companies want these sharp 90-degree ledges or these freaking razor corner tetrahedrons attached to the blade. Why? I'm going to use that to deploy it. This makes sense. This is comfortable. You get a grip on it because there's little edges, but as your thumb slides off the top of it, as it does inevitably as you deploy it, you're not slamming it over a 90-degree ledge. It's rounded off. So you sort of slip over it. They high five each other and have a nice day. And then you part ways, your thumb parts ways with the thumb stud. Thank you. It's so simple. Now I know they can't all be like, sometimes it's about styling, right? But in terms of function and utility, this is very comfortable. You probably saw me also do the little reverse flick there. Incredibly easy. Detent is great. You guys probably could, because they have not started production yet. CJRB, if you're listening, here's my honest take. Increase the detent strength by maybe 20%. It's good the way that it is. I'm happy with it. It's good. Little more. It'll be perfect. Okay, that's just my opinion. But it's good the way that it is. Still a click. I do like that. This is a button-operated top liner lock, meaning the lock slips into place behind that lock face instead of underneath like a liner lock. Better engagement. Not exactly the same thing as a Spyderco compression lock, but in terms of the way that the liner engages with the lock face of the blade, it's in that same position. This tends to be more reliable than your standard liner locks and way more reliable than your plunge lock, definitely. That's cool. And it's nice because we like to push buttons. We like to push buttons and fidget. And yes, you can open this just by pushing the button and doing this, right, if you want to. We like to push buttons. What we don't like is when our knives disengage while we're just using them like knives, right? So the top liner lock, I think, is really, really cool. The action is spectacular, and it can be even more spectacular. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. This is very similar. It's important to note that the CJRB is contoured, which is very nice. This is very nicely done. Really enjoy that. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. Very easy knife to carry. This was a joy for me to EDC for a number of different reasons, but it folds up and it still feels like a full-size titanium knife, but not one that is, super cumbersome. Probably not the knife that I would choose for, like dress pants or athletic pants or anything like that. I think at some point they will probably release a less expensive version truthfully, guys, hopefully not AR RPM 9. At least your AR SF2 or whatever that stuff is. But I think it would be really cool if you guys just did 14C28N or something like that, right? But eventually they'll probably release a lighter weight version, and again, probably a mini. So those of you who want this same setup, but maybe you do wear, fitted pants or athletic pants like regularly, and you want something a little lighter to carry around, I think probably. For those of you who wear jeans or more, heavy duty pants on a regular basis, just casual, sort of like if you're a Midwestern dad like me, you're 38 years old and you just love cargo pants. This goes great in cargo pants. So yeah, there you go. Anyways, easy to carry. Let's do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. One time there was a guy in the comments who was like, why do you take the time to put it in the driver every single time? Like, why don't you just check it with the bit? I don't know, because I like how it feels. I like it. Plus, I get to show the thing and tell people that there are links for it. How am I supposed to make commissions on it if I don't show? I mean, come on. I also do really like seriously, what guy doesn't like this feeling? I realized what I was doing as soon as I did it. I'm sorry. Anyways, pivot to T8 now. CJRB, come on now, guys. You did it! I thought you didn't do it. These are T8. Gosh, they look like T6 though. First glance. No, those are T8. Awesome. I was about to scold you. About to give you the old... but the pocket clip screws are still T6. Why don't you guys just use the same... Why don't you guys just use the same screws here for... It doesn't matter. I don't really care that much about the pocket clip. It is, mountable on both sides, so that's nice. But just a couple of screws there to take out. And then the internals of a button-operated top liner lock are incredibly simple. So maintenance and little micro adjustments moving forward, very, very easy. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. What do we have for materials? Let's talk about this real quick. I think all of these pre-release versions, at least I think all of them, aside from maybe they'll do like a Damasteel one down. I'm not really sure. They're all S90V. And CJRB and Artisan Color do their S90V at 59 to 61, which I think is fine. I think they could probably bump it up to 60 to 62, but is it necessary? No. I think it's okay. It's not like M390, right? S90V is still pretty incredible at 59 to 61 and can be better. M390 at 59 is like, not very good because of the composition and where it's optimized. But like S90V has a lower corrosion resistance and I think the same or slightly lower toughness, maybe a little better toughness, but it has way better edge retention. So you're still getting like, I think 59, I could be wrong about this. I think 59 HRC S90V will probably still outperform 61 HRC M390. I could be wrong, but I believe that to be the case. You can tell me if I'm wrong. It's got to be pretty close though. But anyways, the Blade Steel's S90V, and also, despite the fact that I showed the copper one when I unboxed it, because these were prototypes, as AR RPM 9, that copper version is S90V. I confirmed this with them. It will be S90V if you pre-order that one. So, anyways, the weight on this guy, the prototype at least is 4.4 ounces. This, again, is subject to change, but that's probably what you can expect. I think that's fine. Balance is, I don't know, maybe half an inch back, 3/4 of an inch back of the pivot. Pretty much what you'd expect. Not bad. Let's move into the meat and potatoes. This is the Feldspar. It has that iconic Feldspar, just melty ergonomics. Like it has those. Sorry, I misspoke. It has those classic CJRB melty ergonomics. Now, since this came out, like when this came out, this was a big deal. But since this knife has come out, we have countless knives that are similar in contouring and ergonomic space and all of that, right? This type of milling back in 2019, 2018, oh my God. We were freaking out about this. Is it still cool today? Yes. Is it still nice? Yes, it absolutely is. Titanium, contoured, and what I have always called micro milled. We have these little diagonal lines. Do they provide any meaningful traction? A little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. The only thing that's missing from this knife is jimping. I think they didn't have jimping on this thing when I reviewed it however long ago. Why? Put some jimping on there. A little bit. Just a little bit. That would be cool. I love the Tic Tac shape of the button. It's very comfortable. You push it in, there's no stick or anything like that. Easy. The blade drops, but not too fast. You have nice action, but it's not like insano. Can you feel the bearings? Boy, not very much. A little bit of, you can just hear the friction of the detent ball. But the reason I point this out, those of you who have a lot of CJRB and Artisan cutlery knives, not that this has really created a situation where they don't function very well, but I can feel their bearings, I would say, more often, on average, more often than their competitors. And again, that's just like that's a nose in the air, freaking knife snob comment. As far as whether or not that affects functionality, not really. But it is kind of annoying, especially when you get up here into these higher price variations. But on this guy, this prototype or pre-production sample, pretty darn smooth. Good job, guys. Feels good. Black pivot collar. I kind of like that. I hope you guys release multiple variations of Ano with this as well. That'd be nice. We have a simple stonewash finish on the blade, which I think is perfect on this variation. Looks good. CJRB has always done a good job. We have that sort of spear point, drop, whatever you want to call it. Spear point is what I'm going to call it. Relatively thin, flat ground blade, which is fine. Some people like hollow better, but the original is flat ground. I think that's great. Does taper out to a pretty thin tip, but not too thin. Factory edge is nice and even on both sides, nice and bitey there. Beautifully comfortable. Again, the only thing that's missing here is just a little bit of jimping, but this choil, at least for my fingers, which I don't have the biggest hands in the world. I have fairly large hands. I wear an XL size glove, and I don't have the thickest fingers in the world. A lot of people, I think, might describe my hands as really big. If I put my hands next to my little brother's hand or my dad's hand, my dad's hands are longer and thicker, and my brother's hands are the same size but thicker, like his fingers are thicker. So if your hands are about the same size as mine or smaller, then you're going to fit in there beautifully. I think my brother and dad might be kind of running up here a little bit, but that's about the best way that I can describe it there. Okay. Couple of standoffs back here, no backspacer. I think that's fine. That's probably how they keep that price down about where it is. You have that simple symmetrical popsicle stick style clip, which is mounted above, or at least where they put these two screws, the lanyard hole, which is great. We should never be prioritizing a lanyard hole over the pocket clip. That's stupid. That's for nobody, right? That's like what's the best example that I can make here? That would be like diesel flavored ice cream. Right? That's for nobody. Nobody wants that. So that's the same thing as prioritizing the lanyard hole above where the pocket clip mounts. It doesn't make any sense. And it hits about the mid mark here and is absolutely not an ergonomic hotspot. So I'm totally fine with that. The pocket clip, I believe, is also, the pocket clip is smooth. It's not milled. You can flip it over to the other side. A lot of people will be kind of like, I don't like that. I think, CJRB, you guys probably should have included a filler tab that is milled exactly the same way as the surrounding titanium. I think that would have helped out. Now, you still have to look at the screw there, but I think that would have been nice. A one-screw filler tab. Hinderer does those. They do a single-screw filler tab, and it covers the other hole. And this way you have that two-screw look, which is very common, but at the same time, we can hide this area a little bit and still accommodate for lefties. I think that would be nice. We have a stop pin located in this position back here, and we have just the slightest amount. Look at that little indentation right there where it meets the stop pin, just the slightest bit of shouldering. It doesn't really matter either way, but that's kind of a nice little detail. No blade play, up, down, left to right, no lock stick, zero pivot lash, very smooth and consistent in here. This is really nice. One of the best that I've felt from CJRB or Artisan Cutlery. And a good click into the closed position, but again, I think they could increase the detent slightly. Your centering appears to be absolutely spot on here. I mean, everything about this screams, I'm ready to go. If they released it exactly like this, I think that this would largely be accepted as just an absolutely wonderful knife. It does not surprise me at all that the project had a minimum. I mean, I think they screw with these numbers a little bit. Like we need like we either fund it or we don't. You know, we got to have $3,000. We fund the project. Well, they have like $65,000. Like they knew it was going to get funded. They set the bar like incredibly low. But these are all of this other stuff. It's basically just a big pre-order, right? With a nice picture on the front that looks like you blew past the. Like, of course, it's going to get funded. Do I think that they could release it like this and it would be great and I could still recommend this knife? Absolutely, 100%. They could release it just like this and it would be great. I would score this knife like a 94 and 95 out of 100. You add jimping to this, you increase the detent slightly, 15 to 20%, and then we add a little filler tab here, one whole filler tab that's textured the same way as the surrounding titanium. And I think essentially what you have here is an example of a perfect DDC that admittedly does mimic a lot of what we have now anyway. What's cool about this knife is not that it's a brand new thing that we've never ever seen before. What's cool about this knife is that they brought back one of their most popular budget knives and dropped it as a premium knife now in 2025 with a locking system that people want. This is something that companies seem to be very slowly catching on to. The button-operated top liner lock and CJRB, good move. Button-operated top frame lock, very, very cool. Very cool. People want these new systems, right? What's interesting about knives in 2025, what catches people's attention is not, is the blade functional? Is it a good, well-rounded ergonomic design? Is the blade suited for a variety of different tasks? right? Is the blade steel heat treated correctly? Those are all kind of things like, yeah, you should have those things right to begin with, unless you're making like a super artsy knife. What catches people's attention now is, give me all that stuff, but I want some newer or preferred locking system. Or I want some new material or some new wild finish that we've never seen. We, as this part of the community, have evolved past the point where it's just like, yeah, I need like a really good ergonomic profile. I need a really good, like, well-rounded blade shape. Like, okay, well, there's an ocean. An ocean, you can spend the next 5 years, and you still won't be able to see all of the things that meet that criteria. It is an unbelievable... You do not need to hike up into the mountains of Indonesia to meet some master forge smith with all the secrets and the wizard stuff. You guys don't have to sit around a fire and ponder the orb. You don't have to do that, because they're everywhere. They're all over the place. It's easy, right? That's what this is. But what they did is they kept it, they made little subtle improvements, and then they added the button-operated top liner lock, which is what people want. That's one of those elements. I think that's cool, right? If this appears to be one of those things that's in the ocean of all the other things that you see all the time, then great. Then hey, you got your work cut out for you. You got a bunch of things to pick from. If you remember fondly the CJRB Feldspar, and you're like, oh, cool, button-operated top liner lock, and now it's an S90V in titanium, right? Well, this is for you, and I think if you pick it up, you'll really enjoy it. It's really good. I hope whatever their final price tag is, because again, like, early bird on this guy specifically is $200, which is fair, by the way. Like, that's fine. I was hoping to see early bird 175, 180. Sorry, I had to put this in here. I went back and checked, and I was just being dumb. They did have a super early bird pricing on this guy at $185. So the original, like, limited super early bird pricing was $185, and then early bird was $199. It would not surprise me at all, by the way, if the early bird pricing ends up being exactly the same as the standard retail pricing, but I don't know. I'm just guessing. I just wanted to throw this in here and correct myself. Anyways, back to the video. Good knife, though. Recommendable. Nice work. I will absolutely review the top frame lock version, which is the same thing, but it's a top frame lock. We will talk about that because it's very interesting in another video. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.